The place of debt in human history. The history of debt is as old as human history itself. In ancient Mesopotamia, as early as 3000 BC, agricultural societies began to keep the first debt ledgers. Farmers borrowed seeds and equipment from temples or wealthy landowners before planting season, repaying the debt with their harvest. A similar system existed in ancient Rome. However, when the people became over-indebted and faced the threat of falling into slavery, uprisings began. As a result, strict laws regulating debt relations were enacted in Roman law. In the Middle Ages, debt became the focal point of religious debates. The ban on interest was circumvented through various means. In Europe, Jewish bankers emerged, while in the Islamic world, the concept of qarzi hasan, or interest-free loans, developed. In Europe, Jewish bankers emerged, while in the Islamic world, the concept of qarzi hasan, or interest-free loans, developed. In the modern era, debt has been the engine of capitalism from the Industrial Revolution to the present. England financed its industrialization through government borrowing, and the United States fought its wars on credit, placing itself at the heart of the global debt order. History shows us this. Debt can elevate empires or drag them into collapse. So, what makes it good or bad? The logic of good debt. Investing in the future. Good debt means investing in the future. The debt taken is used to achieve long-term benefits. On an individual level, a university loan can help a person achieve higher earnings in their career. In Canada, mortgage loans enable homeownership. In India, microcredit has led to the birth of small businesses and empowered women entrepreneurs. The same logic applies to countries. South Korea developed its infrastructure and industry with borrowed money in the 1960s, becoming one of the world's leading economies. Germany redirected post-WTO borrowings toward investments, achieving its economic miracle. Germany redirected post-WTO borrowings toward investments, achieving its economic miracle. Clearly, when used correctly, debt is a powerful tool for growth. But what happens when the same debt is used for the wrong purposes? The dilemma of bad debt: consumption and collapse. Bad debt finances only consumption rather than production. In the US, millions struggle under credit card debt. Debt taken out for a vacation or a luxury bag turns into an unpayable interest burden for years. Argentina directed its borrowings to public spending rather than production to cover budget deficits, leading to constant crises. In Nigeria, young people take on debt to buy luxury cars for status, but as the cars depreciate, the debt burden increases. Misuse of debt drives both individuals and countries into dead ends. This raises an important question. How can individuals decide whether debt is good or bad? Balance in individual debt choices. An individual's debts directly shape their future. A loan taken for education can open the door to a high-paying job in the long run, but debt incurred for luxury consumption or short-term pleasures can paralyze life. In Japan, young people known as parasito shinguru live with their families, spend on consumer goods, and finance their lifestyle with debt, causing major problems as they age. At this point, individuals should ask themselves, will this debt bring me income in the future? Will the cost of debt be lower than my earnings? Will the value of what I buy increase? Is my debt sustainable? The answers to these questions determine the fate of one's debt. What about companies? Does the same distinction apply to them? The two sides of debt for companies. For companies, debt can be the fuel for growth. Tesla financed R&D investments with debt for years and is now one of the most valuable automotive companies in the world. But China's real estate giant Evergrande shows the opposite. Uncontrolled borrowing became unpayable and brought the company to the brink of collapse. For companies, debt is a lever, but used incorrectly, it can trigger chain crises. This brings us to a bigger question. How do governments manage debt? Government debt balance nations' debt can also be good or bad. The U.S. is considered reliable despite its massive debt figures because investors believe the U.S. can pay its debts. Japan's debt-to-GDP ratio is over 250%, but most of the debt is held by domestic investors and does not trigger a crisis. In contrast, Greece was dragged into a debt crisis in 2008. Sri Lanka went bankrupt in 2022 because its borrowings were directed toward consumption rather than production. The same truth applies for states. Debt directed toward infrastructure, production, and growth is good. Debt used for populist spending is bad. The relationship between debt and inflation debt also affects inflation. Good debt increases production capacity and ensures price stability, but bad debt only increases consumption. The main reason for high inflation in Latin American countries is debt focused on consumption rather than production. At this point, history offers many lessons. The Ottoman Empire failed to use its 19th century debt efficiently. Loans taken for palace expenses and war costs led to foreign creditors controlling the economy through the Umumiyya. Germany, on the other hand, restructured its debt through the London Agreement in 1953 and focused on production. Soon, it became one of the world's strongest economies. In the 1980s, Mexico borrowed on the expectation of high oil prices. When prices dropped, it could not pay its debts and triggered the Latin American debt crisis. These examples once again prove that the fate of debt is always determined by its purpose. So how will debt transform in the future? The future of debt, digitization and artificial intelligence. Today, the concept of debt is rapidly changing under the influence of technology. In Kenya, the M-Pesa app enables microcredit for millions. In the US, some fintech companies now offer crypto-backed loans. In Canada, banks have started determining personalized interest rates via AI-based systems. However, technology does not change the essence of debt. The rule remains the same. Income-generating debt is good. Debt that only supports consumption is bad. A universal question. Throughout history, everyone from empires to individuals has been tested by debt. Rome, the Ottomans, Germany, the US, Greece, they have all faced the same truth. When used correctly, debt leads to development. When used incorrectly, it leads to collapse. Today, individuals struggling with credit card debt, governments with public debt, and companies with investment loans all seek the same answer. Will debt move us forward or chain us down? The answer is hidden in how we use debt. Good debt is a door to the future. Bad debt is a burden from the past carried into the future. If you want more content like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments.